Hey there, super friends. This is Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Thursday, December 21st, 2017. If you want to connect with us on social media, you can friend up our Last Point Gaming Facebook account. You can follow us on Twitter at Last Point Gaming. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Stranger Sparrow. Or you can always reach out directly with an email to lastpointgaming@gmail.com. Fair warning, don't know how audio quality is going to be on this one. Doing something a little different. I did record a cast today after I dropped the kids off at school and was running to get coffee. And yeah, it was really rambly in the beginning. Then I finally zeroed in on a topic, and then next thing I knew I was at Target and I hadn't really wrapped up. So now I'm going to talk to you all and record while I'm wrapping the kids' Christmas presents. Well, kids and husband. So this is like the first ever I'm recording while not driving. My mic is out in the car, of course, because it just occurred to me to do this. And then hopefully after this one, I will have time to run out to the fancy bakery to get my dad some nice Christmas cookies. Usually I bake him Christmas cookies, but this whole year just kind of got away from me. But yeah, hopefully by the time I'm done with all this, I'll have time to run out to the fancy bakery and purchase some fancy Christmas cookies for him this year, since I'm not really feeling the baking. And I can do the second cast while I'm doing that. So, there we have it. My equalizer's showing, like, good reading. It's picking up my voice, it looks like. This one may be a little softer than they usually are, because again, I don't have the mic, 6 inches from my mouth. So yeah, if you're listening to this one and you turn it up to hear better, just make sure you turn it down again before you go on to the next one, as I will probably be driving for the next one. So, the topic I finally zeroed in on while I was out driving this morning was, I have talked about cosplay. Where did the Target bag go? Oh God, I gotta keep everything straight. This week I've talked about cosplay, and I've talked about Rip It, and yesterday I got into talking about Patreon and that kind of thing. So I guess I'm going to continue on that just a little bit, and the world of content creation. So, I mean, you all know, if you've been with me for any real length of time, that there actually aren't too many content creators I regularly tune into. And a lot of this is because most of my content creation, or my content absorption, I guess, is done at work while I'm working. So, like odd voice or odd speech patterns, a lot of starts and stops, a lot of dead space, that kind of thing. It's really hard for me to stay focused on what I'm doing while listening to it. And I have to, because I like getting paid. But, you know, I do observe some of these content creators, mostly the organized ones, like the Channel Fireball guys. I've started watching Sam Party. I like him. And the SCG guys, of course. And gals. Though I don't really watch much from Emma or Jadine. Mostly, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like I pay for the premium subscription, I better watch the premium stuff. But, you know, this all goes back to, like, things I've heard Jeremy say, and seen people talk about on the internets that, yeah, I just kind of want to give my take on. I don't know, I feel like at this point, I had defended him so much, that, like, I feel like I need to address things he said that I didn't agree with now, because that'll give you more of a complete picture of my feelings on things he said. So, like, one of the things he has gone on and on and on about, well, don't move, is how the professor from Tolarian, I was using his name because I had seen other people use it. I had not known his name before that point, and I thought it was because I didn't watch his content very frequently that, like, I had missed where he had shared it. And I've come to find out since then, the professor, like, diligently does not want his name out, his actual name out in the public space. So I'm going to go back to referring to him as the professor. I do apologize, because I'm definitely, like, you'll notice, I make up monikers for all the shop guys. I use my real name, my first name at least, and I did slip up that one time in my last name. Plus, if, you know, you follow Taryn's stuff, it wouldn't be that hard to figure out. In fact, any of you that are here from Taryn's stream or anything, I'm sure if you're in the Traders Facebook group, as well as, you know, participate in their stream and everything, you've probably figured out by now what my actual name is, because that is the Facebook account I have in the Facebook group. I'm not terribly worried about it personally. However, my concern really comes in because I have children. And yeah, I've seen things like people being doxxed and everything, and, you know, it's one thing to say, fuck it, come at me, bro. It's another thing to potentially put my children at risk, you know? So, in any case, I do apologize for using Brian, the professor's name in the past. It's going to take a little bit to get used to it, because I gotten used to using his name. I never did it intentionally to slight him or like, haha, look at this, I'm gonna do this thing that upsets you again. It had been multiple places had used his name in articles or, videos on this whole topic that, and not all unfriendly sources. So I had kind of assumed that it was in fact public knowledge and I had just missed it. And now, of course, I feel like an asshole about it. Because, you know, I wouldn't want anybody, you know, sharing out, like, you know, for instance, Taryn from MTGO Traders, you know, we are now Facebook friends, and on my personal Facebook, I do use my kid's real name, my husband's real name, and it would be really kind of awful of him if, you know, at some point he developed some kind of disliking of me. You know, he knows that I go out of my way to not share that information on my family, and decides that he's going to share that out to spite me. I'd be really jacked. People, even when, you know, they do content creation and everything else, they do have a certain amount of, I want to say right. Right is a weird word to use there, but I just feel like their wishes should be respected on what information they wish to keep personal and what information they don't. But that's just me. Anyway, so one of Jeremy's big sticking points against the professor was that he makes a lot of money from his Patreon, and he feels that, you know, like, dude just needs to go get a real job because Jeremy has a real job. Well, here's the thing. Here's my feelings on that, and it's much like my feelings, you know, I mentioned yesterday when I was talking about the whole cosplay thing. If he is creating content that enough people are saying, yeah, I like this enough to throw him a couple bucks, that, you know, he can make $100,000 a year off that, because, generally speaking, Magic players tend to not have a lot of disposable income. One, most of your disposable income gets eaten up in cards. And two, well, I guess it's a varying range. Again, you know, when I talk about Flip It or Rip It, I talk about why I feel so many people get, like, so aggressive about it. And it's that, you know, you have this thing that I would, you know, so very much like to have, but I can't afford, and you're just destroying it because you can. And yeah, that's why people find this stuff so upsetting. Because there are a fair amount of Magic players that are in lower income brackets that, you know, the reason they can't really compete is not only are tournament fees, you know, just a little much, but then to compound that with how expensive it is to buy a competitive deck to make it worthwhile even going. You know, I generally don't spend too terribly much, but like on Rami Red, I spent, it was over $100, and I had a good portion of the cards, but I needed the expensive ones. Like, I needed a Glory Bringer and like a Chandra, all 4 Hazarets. So I think actually it ended up being closer to $200. And that was, again, a deck I had most of the lower end cards for. And, you know, I at least had like 2 Chandras and I think 2 Glory Bringers. So, like, not even all the expensive cards for that $200. I mean, the Hazarets alone were like $120. I'll close the door. So, you know, when you're talking somebody that doesn't have the disposable income I do, you know, I can understand why they get upset. What is going on in Fallout Shelter? Something's happened in my vault. Is it on fire again? Oh my god, it's like all steel and concrete, and it's always on fire. I picked up this Fallout Shelter app game. It's like based on the game Fallout, because I was supposed to get like cool emoticons with it, but apparently that's only for iPhone. And it's kind of like having a Tamagotchi all over again. I gotta take care of these stupid people, and shit keeps catching on fire. So anyway, as far as like taking exception to, there's claims that the professor makes like $100,000 a year off his Patreon. Dude, I think you just jealous. It's not a scam. A scam implies something is promised and then not delivered. I'm trying to talk louder. I have to fill the dog's water bowl. Again, the audio quality on this is going to be really spotty. There you go, Sylvia. But yeah, if you can get people to pay you that much to make Magic content, more fucking power to you, dude. Like, that's amazing. Because again, they tend to not have insane amounts of disposable income. So, I don't really... Oh man, how am I even going to do this? Expert level wrapping. I'm wrapping the damn laptop. I wasn't going to wrap them. I was just going to stick bows on them. But no, that's not fair. But yeah, I cannot begrudge the guy if he can get enough subscribers at a high enough level. Oh, really? To make that kind of cash? You go, dude. You go. But a scam implies that he promises some sort of, like, oh yeah, if you donate this much to my Patreon, every month I'll send you an unlimited mox. And then he fails to send them. Or fails to mention that he needs an MTGO. Ha ha ha. Or something like that. That's a scam. But to say, well, he's scamming these people. I've seen the same argument made against Philip DeFranco. If you haven't been with me very long, you may not realize I'm a huge fan of the Philip DeFranco show. He's very centrist. He's very neutral, in my opinion. You may disagree with me, and that's cool. And there are definitely people who don't like him, and that's fine. But I do really enjoy his show. And I guess he used to be with another content creation group. I don't know. was only fairly recently I got into him after the whole Daddy of 5 bullshit thing going on. Because based on my understanding of what was happening there, I refused to give that channel clicks, so I tried to find other things that were covering it, and came across him. So I guess he used to be with a different content creation group, and something happened that he ended up going out on his own because they became too controlling in what he could and couldn't say, and wanted him to push an agenda and all that kind of happy nonsense. So, you know, he has Patreon, and he has Patreon rewards. You know, oh crap, I gotta go to the other side of the table for this. Yeah, I can't wrap stuff on the floor because between the dog and the cat I'll never get anything done, but using the table is rough. So, he started a Patreon and everything, and like for $10 a month you get a poster every so often that's signed and all that crap. As you go up, like at one level you get a coffee mug every couple of months, and you get like coupon codes for their merch, online merch store, and just like all kinds of backer rewards. And I've seen many videos on this whole thing talking about how he's such a scam artist and he's such a liar, because Philip DeFranco himself actually has quite a bit of money. Because he's been in the YouTube game for a very long time, and I cut too much paper. Okay. He's been in the YouTube game for a very long time doing this. I definitely call it news. I know there are many that do not, but I call John Oliver news as well, so each their own on that score. But he's been doing this a while. He's a notable personality. He's, you know, an investor of sorts. I know he started out with limited to nothing, and, you know, managed to kind of blow up. And that's great. So, you know, he's got a good amount of money. If you ever see the vlogs where they cover stuff at his house with him and the family, yeah, you can deduce man's got some deep pockets. So he's like, oh, so if he wants to build this channel, he can just do it out of those funds. I'm sure some of his personal funds go into things, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with that. He's performing a service. Yeah, whether you like his service or not, there are a lot of us who do, but he's working. Like, I know, like, I watch the vlog too, because, well, their video editor is very pretty, and I like to look at him. I think the guy's name is Brian. I don't know. It's tough to tell because, again, I'm not always looking down at the screen, and they've got like the two video editors that work together, and I'm not quite sure which one's which. What is going on here? It's fine. It's fine. Just gotta mash it down. I was professionally trained in wrapping presents. A billion years ago, I was a barista at a Borders cafe for a while. And one of the things, for a while, like, I don't know, not quite a year. In my younger years, I moved jobs a lot. I was trying to find my calling, you know? Trying to find my way in this world. I don't even know what I'm singing there. But yeah, we all had to be trained that Christmas season on how to wrap presents because that was the service the store offered. So yeah, I was professionally trained and I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing most of the time. Anyway. So as far as, well, he should build his organization with his own money, I mean, yeah, if that's how he wanted to do things. I'm sure if he wasn't getting the Patreon support that he is, he would reevaluate. Is this something he really thought he could make work? Or, you know, was it looking bad, like looking like this just wasn't going to pan out? Or, you know, where do we go from here? The fact of the matter is there are enough people that really love what he does and really love what he has to say and the fun energy of, you know, the whole crew and everything. That, you know, really enjoy what he's putting out there and find a lot of value in it, that donate money to it. And yes, I'm sure some of that money goes into paying. God, look how many staff members they have. They've got like the 3 researchers, the 2 girls whose job is solely to handle all the Patreon stuff and make sure that the Patreon stuff's taken care of and everybody's gets what they're promised and everything else. He's got the 2 video editors. Well, I think one of them's a video editor, and Ryan might be the graphics guy. He also is, you know, cool guy, and I like watching him too, but he's not the one I'm thinking of. Anyway, you know, plus Joe, the camera guy, plus, you know, like, they have so much staff there that I'm sure part of the Patreon money goes to paying the staff, and part of the money goes to paying him some kind of income. I know his wife has a YouTube channel too. I don't watch her channel. And it's not that I don't like her, but I have kids. I know what it's like to have kids. I don't need to watch it. Here, come along with me while I put this one under the tree. So, anyway, this is a really long-winded way of saying, to call this stuff a scam, dog, is just really not fair. Because again, scam implies that something was promised and then not delivered. As long as whatever their Patreon rewards are, and if that's like, okay, you get a monthly video just for Patreons, okay, if 1 month the video doesn't happen because reasons, I can see cutting a break there and saying, okay, well, that's okay, reasons. But if it starts becoming a regular occurrence that this extra video only available to the Patreons that's supposed to be monthly doesn't happen for like 6 months, okay, I think at that point you can start throwing around words like scam. Like, you promised service for dollars, I gave you dollars, I did not get service. But to say, hey, can you give me a couple bucks to help keep me going? Okay, yeah, I'll give you $5 a month because I like what you're doing and you seem like a good guy. Then there's nothing promised to be delivered aside from continuous content, which he is still doing content. You know, it's not like he goes for super long periods of time without videos. I know, because even though I'm not subscribed to him, like, YouTube seems to have gotten really confused since I unsubscribed to so many people all at the same time, and is like, are you sure you don't want to know when they put out new videos? Just to be safe, here, let me tell you that they put out a new video. And then the really obnoxious thing is, again, I guess YouTube can't decide who I want to know about and who I don't. So now I'm getting notified for freaking Desolator Magic again. I hate that guy. Now, I don't... That's wrong of me to say. I don't know the guy personally, so I don't know if I'd like him or not. I can say based on his online persona, I don't think I would. But I don't know the guy. I really dislike his content greatly. Anyway, so I mean, YouTube's still alerting me that, like, oh hey, Talarian put out a new video. Do you want to watch it? So he's still putting out videos. Like, I don't know what you're claiming he defrauded anybody out of. And to say, well, but he's making so much money off his Patreon, therefore, you know, he doesn't really need it. Well, here's the thing, Super Friends. as much as I believe in supporting content creators and everything and enabling them to do what they're trying to do, as I've talked about a few that I have a lot of respect for, but I'll tell you, as much as I love the Philip DeFranco show, I don't even donate to his Patreon. Probably at some point I will start, because again, I have the disposable income, and you know, it's like when people talk about, well, how about instead of taxes, we just let people pay into things? Yeah, do you know what happens then? You end up with no schools or fire departments. Yeah, there's a reason that money goes into a big pot to service different things, rather than allowing each individual to prioritize what they want serviced and what they don't, because all of these things together serve a greater social benefit. You know, it's like a retiree that, say, can't or doesn't leave their house. They don't maybe think they benefit from, you know, road maintenance, except for the Meals on Wheels people who bring them meals. They may not be driving on the roads, but somebody is. In any case, you know, I generally try to give to things that bring me joy. But, I don't know, he doesn't seem to be struggling, so I don't really feel compelled. And maybe that's kind of awful of me. Probably is. Now I have to meld 2 wrapping papers together. You know what? No. I'm just going to use the 3rd wrapping paper. So instead of labeling my kids' gifts, we just buy like a big pack of wrapping paper every year, and I let them pick which one they like best. And that's their wrapping paper. So all their gifts are wrapped in that wrapping paper. Well, this year we got the girls a joint present. Yeah, they got a little spoiled this year. So I was going to try to meld the 2 wrapping papers together and wrap it in half one and half the other. I ain't about that life, and this cast has already gotten insanely long, and I still have to wrap husband's present. So yeah, I'm just using the 3rd wrapping paper. I decided I ain't that crafty today. Does that make me a horrible mother? Probably. It's alright. Everybody will always be able to find a reason why you're a horrible parent. Those of you who don't have kids yet know that that is a universal truth. Especially the younger you are. Yeah. Well, guess what? I had my oldest kid when I was 18, and I never left her in a car to get kidnapped. Or perish in that condition. So, apparently I wasn't that bad. But, yeah, as far as having a Patreon and, you know, doing a blurb, and even if you do it in every video, like DeFranco does, the end of every video, if you like what we do here, if you like what, you know, you like the show, you like what I'm trying to do, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And you can always go over to DeFrancoElite.com and join, I don't know what he calls them. He used to call them BAMFs. Badass motherfuckers. Yeah. Maybe that's why I don't donate. Maybe that's it, Phil. Go back to calling us BAMFs and I'll give you some money. Which has the top? I don't know. So if you want to do a plug every video, I just, again, I do feel, I said this a couple days ago, in this country, in developed countries, we find the stupidest shit to shame each other about. You know, it's like, I'm bored and frustrated with my life. I need to be angry about something, and I don't want to be angry about something I can control, so I'm going to be angry at this asshole for some bullshit reason. As far as whether your Patreon proceeds go directly into your channel, or go to essentially paying you a salary, it's between you and your Patreons, y'all. Not even really your Patreons. I mean, if you can show where you've done upgrades based on like, oh, and this month we had a real big spike, so I was able to get this awesome piece, or, you know, this awesome camera. Or, okay, 6 months of you guys donating, I finally have enough to get this good microphone. Or if you don't even talk about where that money goes, ultimately it's on the people who donate, how much they care about where that money's going. And, you know, no, I don't think I'd ever want to professionally make content. I think, talk about this last night. I don't know, it's tough to remember. I enjoy doing this. This is fun. Sometimes it gets a little stressful because like I'm trying real hard to have my 5 days a week and trying to make them, you know, a little more organized and trying to set up some kind of schedule I can follow, and just none of that's working out. But you know, so sometimes it gets a little like, oh God, why am I doing this to myself? I feel like I'm just kind of punching myself in the face over and over again. But for the most part, like, I enjoy doing it. I'm going to talk to myself anyway. Sometimes this interferes with, like, rehearsing conversations I need to have. But at the end of the day, any given day, I can just be like, you know, I'm just not recording today. And really, I mean, I know I have drummed up a better listener base than I had, but at the same time, there's still not all that many. Is anybody really going to care if I don't record for a day? I don't know. But I do it for fun, and I don't know, if it would pick up to the point where I thought I could feasibly support myself off of that, like, maybe that's why at this point I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to do this professionally, is I'm skeptical about my ability to do that long term. So maybe if it was looking more like that was feasible, I would be less like, I don't know, that doesn't sound like fun. Because, you know, as much as I enjoy what I do for a living, there are definitely some days that I'm like, oh, I'm so fucking sick of this shit. Especially the more, like, bureaucratic nonsense that pops up. Because that's like a quarter of my job anymore. Is not actually doing my job, but all the bureaucratic nonsense that comes with it. Like making sure I fill out my documentation and my, you know, log how long it took me to accomplish this task, and you know, all that kind of nonsense that gets annoying. But for most part, I like what I do, and I get paid well to do it, and I have benefits, and I have paid time off, which I guess if you're supporting yourself off Patreon, I guess you kind of do too, because you just get paid every month. So it's really how many things can you miss before you lose donors? I don't know. But like, yeah, I get paid time off, I get paid holidays, I get, you know, treated pretty good. And I mean, yeah, I guess there's always a concern that like if we hit another recession, there could be a surprise downsizing and I could lose my job. And that would kind of suck. But even there, at least I'm protected by unemployment for, you know, some time to try to give me time to figure out how to, you know, how to get back on top. Whereas if I was doing content creation full time and all of a sudden, like, I said something that pissed off the whole world and, you know, everybody unsubscribes all at once and stops donating or whatever, you know, that's kind of scary. Like, hopefully I've saved some money. But, you know, at this particular point, I look at it and go, yeah, I don't want to do that professionally, and I don't think I could. Like, it would freak me out. I don't know. But, again, maybe if it looked more viable, my opinion would be different. Like, maybe that's just the realist in me talking, and anymore I can't separate that voice from all the other voices in my head. But I don't begrudge anybody that makes a living off of playing the game or doing content creation. Because, again, somebody must feel that what you've got to say is worthwhile enough to keep paying you. So, oh man. Remember how I said about how I got this smallish tree that, I flattened the one side so it sat against the wall. It does not leave much room for putting crap under it. Plus, I got all the presents for my parents and everything. God. This is the most stressful time of the year. Oh. Alright. Just gotta wrap the husband's present, and then I'm done, and I can wrap up this cast, and hopefully come up with something to talk about for a second one. But, yeah. So, I've taken 35 minutes to say, could have been said in like 2. I think accusing somebody of wrongdoing or running a scam or anything along those lines because they have a Patreon and you don't find their content worthwhile, is, I don't know, shitty and childish. Sorry, Jeremy. But it is. What are you doing, Sylvia? What's wrong? Do you want a treat? Can you go, like, lay down for a treat? Here. There you go. She's not used to me being home during the day, so she, like, wants to be right beside me, but then keeps getting, like, bumped into and stepped on, and... Ugh. But, as far as saying, I think you're just jealous, I don't think that's necessarily the case. There are some people that just really don't value this stuff, and that's fine. I don't value high-end sports cars. That means that high-end sports car manufacturers are shysters and scamming people. I mean, their cars really need to cost that much, I don't know, but people are willing to pay it. And that's kind of where I land on this. Just because you don't give that thing value doesn't mean that it's wrong. Oh, cut that one a little close. Alright, well, he gets a rough edge of wrapping paper because I don't have room to fold it down. There are no left-handed scissors in my house. Everybody says, you don't actually need left-handed scissors. That's bullshit. No, it's not. Left-handed scissors are a real thing. And every time I get them, they disappear. If you're not aware, I am left-handed, and that's why I'm bitching about this. Because now I can't get clean cuts on the wrapping paper. I can't do the thing where you just kind of hold it at the right angle and zoom it down because they're backwards. It doesn't work. But yeah, that's really all I got to say on it. I know it took me a while to get here. Yeah, you can probably tune out for the next 2 weeks and not miss anything, like, important. This just got so much going on right now. But even content creators that I don't care for as much, like, I don't have any problem with the professor himself. I really don't, because from everything I actually saw, he still seemed to keep to his standards. Where, yeah, he made a slam video on Jeremy, but he was very careful in his rhetoric. In fact, beseeched the community to not... Recruiters. Yeah, apparently, I'm not really... Don't have to really be that concerned about, losing my job, because I get an insane amount of calls and emails from recruiters every day. Anyway, you cannot agree with the things he said. You can not agree with his stance on the issue, and that's cool. But I think to deny that in that video, he was very careful in how he spoke, and whether he did it to not arm people like me to say, well, you're just bullshit because here you are ranting and raving about how wrong all this is and you're doing it yourself. Or because he really feels that it's wrong and refuses to engage in it. It really doesn't matter. Fact of the matter is, publicly, at least from my vantage point, and if you disagree, you know, feel free to hit me up and let me know. I am always open to discuss things. I'm not going to argue with you, though. I'm not going to name call and, like, fling insults and shit. It's a waste of my time. And you may have noticed, as I'm recording while wrapping presents and all this multitasking shit I do, time is a very valuable commodity to me. So I'm okay having a discussion, having a constructive interaction where we go back and forth and talk about our feelings. And, you know, try to help each other understand our viewpoints better. But if you're just going to be like, listen, you stupid bitch, I'm going to tune you right out. Time for your shit. It may sound callous or elitist of me, but it's reality. I do not have time for that. In any case, so if you feel I'm wrong on this, feel free to reach out and we can totally talk about it. But whether he really legitimately believes this message he's preaching or not, he adhered to the behavior that it seems would be expected of people. He didn't body shame. He didn't, like, he stuck to, you know, you make these attack videos and, you know, it's upsetting to people and it brings about, you know, this, oh crap, I used a blue belt. Okay. I try to make shit match, and now there's bows all over my table. Well, we got a lot of extra bows. Maybe I'll do something fancy and artistic with this shit. But, I applaud that he kept, his video definitely wasn't neutral. He definitely had a point of, Jeremy, I feel you're bad for the community. But he was careful in how he spoke and how he approached things. And I don't follow him on Twitter anymore, but from what I had always seen on there, he definitely complained about things, but he was careful in his language. It's like, I don't have a problem with the fact that Fournier doesn't like people disagreeing with him. If he engaged and tried to engage in a constructive back and forth, or just ignored the trolly bullshit. Or even just a comment of, you don't seem to be interested in discussion. You seem to just want an argument, and I'm not going to participate in that. You know, by the way, taking that route, so much more cutting. Because most people will look at that and be like, oh, snap! He basically just told you you're not worth his time. You know, at least in my opinion, what I take exception to is the fact that, you know, he's like, oh, you shouldn't slander people and make snap judgments and stereotype and everything else. Okay, hey, Daniel, I disagree with some of your points. Nazi! What the fuck, dude? That's what I take exception to. That's what I don't like. And kind of leads me to not like him. Not really personally, because again, I think assuming that somebody's online persona is who they really are is not the best. But that's why, like, I have him muted on Twitter because I just couldn't stand seeing his crap pop up anymore. But the professor always seemed to, from what I had seen, be very careful in how he approached things. And not call people fat neckbeards or indicate that the reason they hate women so much is because they can't get laid or any of these other bullshit tactics. Being like, look, what you're doing is not right. It's upsetting people and it's needless and I find it cruel and I still have a lot of respect for the guy. So that's where that's at. Ultimately, if you can get people to pay you to do what you love, fucking do it. If you can't get people to pay you to do what you love, or don't love doing it enough to try to get paid, or, you know, don't want that, you ain't about that life, cool. But that doesn't mean you, like, really need to shame other people who feel differently. So, that's all I got for this long rambly cast. I'm gonna try to do another one. I am finished wrapping. And it is about noon, so I have about 4 hours still left to get the kids off the bus. That should be enough time to run across the river, get Dad's cookies, stop and pick up the gift certificates for my mother-in-law, and be back. So I'll probably do another cast and all that. As always, oh, sorry this one's so long. But if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening. And I'll talk to you all hopefully one more time this week at some point.